morning. You're welcome to another edition of Study Time with the Word. My name is Hilda. Yesterday we looked at the life of Abraham. We have been looking at the topic faithfulness. Yesterday we looked at the life of Daniel, and then 2 days ago we looked at the life of Abraham, relating it with our present life and what God expects of us. Today we are going to be looking at these three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Let's remember one thing, that in Daniel chapter 1 verse 15, it was clear to us that Daniel and his three friends chose not to defile themselves with the king's meat, and they were looking healthier than the other persons who were eating the rich food. The emphasis is on Daniel and his three friends. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were friends of Daniel. And they will always say something that, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. Who you associate with matters. Who you mingle with, who you spend most of your time with matters and reflects solely on you. Let's look at Daniel chapter 3 verses 12. It says, but there are some Jews, because one of the evidence of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the faithfulness, is that Daniel 3:12 tells us that there are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue that you have set up. Let's do a quick rundown of the story. King Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, and he constructed a 90-foot statue of himself and commanded that everyone at the sound of the trumpet must bow to it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were with the people, but they refused to bow to it. So they decided, because of who they are and the God that they serve, they honored God so much so that they chose not to bow. 90 feet tall statue. Picture how tall, or picture the height of the statue. It must have been very, very tall. Then that's one of the proof of their faithfulness. Number 2, they also refused to defile themselves with the king's meat, as seen in Daniel chapter 1 verses 15. Then lastly, they had a die-hard trust in God. They had a die-hard trust. Let's look at Daniel chapter 3 verses 28 and see what it says. Daniel chapter 3 verses 28. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, praise to the Lord of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, when we talk of die-hard trust, there was something that was very significant with these three Hebrew boys. When they refused to bow, and it was brought to the knowledge of King Nebuchadnezzar gave them one last chance and told them, as the sound of this, you bow or we'll throw you into the burning furnace. And guess what? They told the king, we are not careful to answer you on this. That the God whom we serve is able to save us. And even if he doesn't, says we will still not bow. They had a die-hard trust in God. Their trust in God was not tied to whether God comes through for them or not. And look at what King Nebuchadnezzar said. After the experience, he said, praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. Who trusted in him. How much trust do you have in God? How much belief? Do you believe that God can handle the situations and challenges you're going through presently? How much of God do you know? How much of God do you have a revelation of? Do you trust God? If you trust God, then why are you still worried? If you trust him, why are you still anxious? If you trust him, why are you down? Why do you look pale? Trusting God is, do it with every conviction in your heart that whether or not God answers you, I believe God. I've always said that Jesus was on the cross and God was on the throne. Jesus still died. So in the situation you're going through, search within you. Is there something I'm supposed to learn from it? Is that something I'm meant to pick out of these lessons and grow into? Praise God. So what is our extract for today's teaching? Number 1, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chose to burn for God to be revealed. They chose to burn for God to be revealed. Let's look at Daniel chapter 3, verse 15 to 18. See what Nebuchadnezzar said. I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power? He said, what God? So this battle was a battle between King Nebuchadnezzar and God. It was not between him, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You know, there's a challenge that comes your way. You just step aside for God to take the battle. There are challenges that come your way. You just say, Lord, this is you. I can't handle this. You step aside and God takes control. He said, and then what God will be able to rescue from my power? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. They already had a defense. They already had a defense. And the person, or that is in the person of God, they already had a defense. He said, but if we are thrown, just if by chance, we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He's able, meaning God has the ability to save them. But the problem is, will God save them? Praise God. It's one thing for you to be able. It's another thing for you to be willing. You can be able, but you just choose not to. So they chose to burn for God to be revealed. He said, if we are thrown, he said, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power. We're not saying you don't have power. That's what they're saying. We're not saying you are not powerful. We are saying he will save us from your power. And if God can save them from King Nebuchadnezzar's power, means he's not powerful. Praise God. It means he's not powerful. And I said, Your Majesty, but even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you. What boldness. Why would slaves be talking to a king like that? There was something about their confidence in God. There was something about their boldness in God. They were sure. They were it's not something they say my pastor said. They had a personal relationship with God. He said, but even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, Your Majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. They were slaves, don't forget. They were slaves, but they were free. They had freedom in God. They had freedom of speech. They had freedom to express their faith. Praise God. So they chose to burn for God. So it tells us that until you die to self, until you are dead to flesh, you can't burn for God. You must die to this flesh. Meaning they were ready for this flesh to be burnt in fire. Literally. When I'm talking about dead to flesh, I'm talking about dead to desires, dead to your own will. Praise God. So they were, until you are dead to flesh, you can't carry God in the degree that God wants you to carry him. Until you're dead to flesh, he can't be revealed through your life. Then number 2, the statue of Nebuchadnezzar was 9 feet tall. That's a scary height. Very scary height. I'm sure the house you're staying in right now, if you're to measure the height, is more than 90 feet. Sorry. 90 feet tall. It was a scary height. A lot of us idolize things in our life that are not even up to 90 feet. They're not up to 90 feet, but we're giving into it. We're giving into it. So there are certain things that we have idolized around ourselves. It could be cars. It could be the opposite sex. It could be something that you never considered an idol. It could be your desires. There are certain things you have idolized in around us that are not even up to 90 feet. I'm not even talking about physical idol where you're creating a shrine or molding a statue. I'm talking about invisible idols. It could be a wristwatch you are tied to. When you don't find it, you lose your peace. When you don't find it, you are restless. If you're meant to go to church and because you've not found it, you rather not go to church. Praise God. So there are certain things you have idolized. You have taken God out and placed those things in place of God. See, they are not up to 90 feet, and yet we have given into it. Now, this was a physical stature, and they had a mandate. You don't bow. The furnace was heated 7 times hotter. He said, we'll throw you in. Then lastly, their loyalty to God was not tied to if God would save them. These men were already dead, meaning they died. They already dead before King Nebuchadnezzar proposed the fire. So if you're dead, if you're dead to flesh and dead to self, you won't be scared of fire. Daniel chapter 3 verse 28 tells us at the end of the whole encounter, Nebuchadnezzar praised God. He said they praised God, and at the end, the concluding verse says they defied the king's command, and were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. There's a conviction a man can create around himself that you begin to wonder, what's it about this God that you could give your life for? These men were already dead, and you can only kill a man who is not dead. For someone who is already dead, you can't kill him. Praise God. You can't kill a man who's already dead. So they were already dead, and Nebuchadnezzar was bringing death to threaten them. And they said, no, we are already dead. Praise God. With that, we've come to the end of today's study time with the word. I hope we're impacted today. I pray that as we prepare for our Voice of Love, we also have Voice of Love today by 12 p.m. I hope you'll be there with us. It's going to be an interesting and exciting time in God's presence. I'll see you again on Monday for another edition of Study Time with the Word. Please don't forget to join us on our Voice of Love live teaching today. And we also have our Soaring Daily every morning that goes out. The Word is there to bless us, to refreshen us, and to enlighten us. We thank God for this week, the end of the week. I pray that next week will bring more fruit, and that you bear more fruits for God. My name remains Hilda. See you again on Monday, same time, 9 a.m. Study time with the Word. God bless you.